Hey, what's going on, guys? I've got my mom's 2003 Chevy Trailblazer behind me, and it was throwing an engine code. Check engine light decided to come on. My mom decided to give me a call, and of course I told my mom to come over and I would take a look at it for her. So as I go to scan it, it comes up with p0128 coolant thermostat. I told her that would be no problem, it should be a quick fix, and she can come hang out and then be on her way. Well, not so much. Chevy decided to do something that I'm not familiar with and put the thermostat housing down low beneath the alternator. So I'm going to show you how to replace it and get it back on the road, hopefully without too many cuss words or drinking an entire 18-pack of beer. So the items we're going to need are a new thermostat, this fancy-dancy little guy. Instead of just having a thermostat that you would slip into a housing, you've got to get this entire cast piece. I also got a new radiator cap because her spring looked like it was going bad, so I might as well replace it. Got a gallon of antifreeze, not pre-diluted, and then of course I've got tools and whatnot to make it happen. So to get this job done, supposedly we got to remove the alternator, this bracket, the belt of course to get the alternator off, and then the thermostat housing is back down here somewhere. Another way we could possibly do it is to go up through the fender well and underneath. I'm just not too sure if I want to go through the frustration of that, but I'm going to jack it up, I'm going to pull the wheel off, and we're going to look and see which way is going to be best. The most frustration-free way to possibly change this thing out. So anyway, enjoy the journey. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to jack this old girl up. Next, we're going to put it on some jack stands. Just get those in place. Then we're going to lower down the vehicle. Yeah, baby. Make sure the jack stands stay in place. And we should be safe. Now I'm going to go ahead and get this wheel off. I think I should mention that if you don't have a compressor, before you jack it up, you should break your lug nuts loose first with a breaker bar, a 4-way, or whatever you have. Because with it up in the air, that's not going to work. But me, I have a compressor. Alright, so these are my thoughts with going in the fender well. I've got a 1/4-inch 10mm socket on a swivel. I do have a 3/8 swivel right here, but it's way too heavy and it kept doing the dangle flap. So I've got this super long extension, and I figured we might be able to go at it. We can get to the lower bolt from underneath the vehicle. That's not a big deal. It's the upper bolt that is our issue. So if I take the flashlight, and you guys can watch from up here, you can go in right in this area, and you can go up underneath the lower radiator hose. And if you want, you can see right behind the coil is a hole, and you can see the upper bolt really well. And you can almost get on it. So basically right there, I'm on it. I'm kind of on the bolt. You know, it's not really like completely locked on, like life is good, holy shit, we can move forward. So I don't know how I feel about it. I might have to go in from the top just to make it easier. It's a little bit more work, but it might be, you know, less frustrating. But I'm going to keep checking this out. So behind the coil is that hole right there. Okay, so I have my extension going through. Maybe you'll be able to see. There's the thermostat housing. Let's try this way. Okay, you see the hose, and maybe you can see the thermostat lower bolt, which is easy to get to. It's the top bolt that we're worried about, and I really think that we can do this. I believe putting it back on might be an issue, but I think it's doable. I think with a little bit of woo-saw, some patience, and a few sips of a beer, because every good mechanic in his own garage drinks beer, in my opinion, we should be able to achieve the goal. Alright, so let's see if I can break it loose. Being as that extension was sitting so close, I'm going to use another extension, a 3/8 ratchet. I got it loose. Alright, so I'm going to include that I just broke that loose without emptying the radiator. So what I'm going to do now is, after I get it out, because I figured I could do this, now I'm going to empty the radiator of all the coolant, and then I'm going to proceed forward. So I got the bolt loose, and the bolt's almost out. However, it did not come out with this, which I figured it wouldn't. However, this little guy will make life easy. And just like that, we have our bolt. Being as I'm going for Husband of the Year award, I'm going to use the mop bucket for our house to capture all the coolant. That way I don't make a mess in my garage, or I don't create an environmental disaster and possibly kill cats or something. So let's see how this works out, and let's try not to get in trouble. You know, I really prefer traditional hose clamps, I swear to God. Come on. Alright. Clamp is off. Time to make a mess. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in from underneath, because I have the camera up there for you to see. So I've got the swivel on here with a 2.5 inch extension on my ratchet, and I'm going to come in, get on my bolt, and hopefully break it loose. There we go. With the camera not in the way, you can get to it. So obviously the camera has a pretty good angle of this. So you can speculate that over there would be a straight shot with that long extension. Life would be pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take the ratchet off, and I'm going to use the extension with the socket on my hand. Yeah, you can see right there it's sitting off to the side, so it's just not doing its job, apparently. Also, you're going to notice that there's no O-ring in here. The new O-ring for this one is right here, and the old O-ring is still, I'm trying to see if I can let you guys see it. So the old O-ring is still on there. There you go. So the old O-ring is still sitting on there. And you can see it right there. Alright. So I just got to get that off. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the thermostat back into its home of a hose. Hopefully. Let's see if I can do this with the camera here. Oh, there we go. How about it just do that? Kids are outside singing Apple Pen. Now that's going to be stuck in my head. Oh, great. Of course. Why wouldn't it do that? Alright. Oh, that's not what I wanted. But that will allow me to get it in. And let's see. Holy moly. That actually worked. I just don't know which way this needs to go. So let's hope for the best here. Alright, let's see if I can maneuver this thing back into its home. So I got it up over the AC condenser, and that actually wasn't too hard. And I did get super lucky putting the hose back on that I indexed it correctly. So all I have to do is put the O-ring on and start bolting it back together. I would like to point out that it's better to stretch the O-ring out a little bit. That way it's not so tight, because when it's tight it wants to keep falling off. So just pull on it a little bit and you should be good to go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the lower bolt ready. We're going to get this bottom bolt going in by hand. Seems to be going really well. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and get this lower bolt hand tight. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back through the hole behind the coil with our bolt that is held in with grease on the super long extension with the swivel, and we're going to hope this works out without too much frustration. That wasn't too hard. It actually went in pretty easy. Alright, so now I know the torque specs. I got my torque wrench. It needs to be torqued down to 11 foot-pounds. So, let me find my damn socket. I left it sitting right there. Alright, that's that one. Now we're going to put our swivel back on. I'm going to go through our handy dandy hole behind the spring, and we're going to torque this. So, through our handy dandy hole behind the spring pocket, we were able to replace our thermostat housing without removing the alternator. All in all, I'd say it wasn't too bad. It took a lot longer because I was filming. Other than that, it actually worked out really well. Alright, so these are all the tools that I used. I used the longest extension that I could buy at AutoZone. However long that is, looks maybe 18 inches. I used a 6-inch extension to go onto that to get me more length. I used a 3-inch extension. I used a 1/4-inch swivel, 3/8 to 1/4-inch adapter, 1/4-inch 10mm socket, 3/8 ratchet, a 3/8 torque wrench, torque the bolts to 11 foot-pounds. I used a set of channel locks for the clamps on the radiator hoses, a flathead screwdriver, and a magnet. All of those worked extremely well. That's all I needed. Easy peasy. Sometimes instead of a BFH, you need to get some BFPs. And apparently that's not working too well either. Alright. BFPs to the rescue. Alright, so last thing we're going to do is a new radiator cap. Mom's radiator cap. The spring inside looks to be all cattywampus and not working well. So I got Mom's a new radiator cap. Now what I'm going to do is fill it with 2 gallons of coolant, and we're good to go. Hopefully this helped you, and I know it definitely helped me because I didn't have to pull the alternator, and that makes me happy. You guys enjoy, don't get too frustrated, drink a beer, Do whatever you do, just stay calm and enjoy the fix.